Hello, everybody out there in the Bennelong Foundation community, and welcome and thank you for joining us for our annual Bennelong October Pitch In. This is our second pitch in that we are hosting now via webinar. And whilst it's a bit disappointing that we aren't all able to be together in person, it's wonderful to again have the opportunity to bring the Bennelong Foundation community together on a global level. So I believe we have joining us on this webinar guests participating from Melbourne, Warrnambool, Sydney, Newcastle, Brisbane, Perth, London, Edinburgh and Cornwall. So a very good evening and afternoon to our participants joining us from Australia, and a good morning to our participants in the UK. Before I get started though, I'd like to bring everyone back here to Melbourne, where I am broadcasting from, and to acknowledge the traditional custodians on the land where I am today, and also where our beautiful Bennelong House office is, the Wurundjeri and the Bunurong people of the Kulin Nation, as well as the traditional custodians of the land in which all our other Australian participants and our offices are located. And I pay my respects to their elders, past, present and emerging. For the participants I haven't had the opportunity to meet yet, my name is Sandra and I'm the CEO of the Bennelong Foundation, and will be hosting Pitch In for you during this webinar. This is my 10th Pitch In event that I have done with the group, and the 14th since we started running these events back in 2014. So this means that, including tonight, the Bennelong Foundation community has supported 42 organisations through this platform, which is just an absolutely outstanding achievement. And later on, we will actually have the opportunity to hear from one of our Pitch In alumni, Paula, who was presented at our last Pitch In May from our community pantry, and they received a grant of $27,000. So we'll be able to hear from her towards the end of the event on what the organisation has been able to achieve since then. So before I get into Pitch In, and while we have the whole community together, I wanted to use this event to announce that in June, we registered a sister foundation, the Bennelong Foundation UK. And since then, we've been quite busy working on establishing and getting the foundation set up, which is a wonderful opportunity to tangibly expand the philanthropic footprint of the group on a global level, and to locations where our businesses operate, as well as providing some real world opportunities for members of the Bangarra community outside of Australia to participate in our philanthropic activities. So it's really wonderful as well to see so many participants from our UK offices joining us today in our UK community. So now, whilst most of you are seasoned Pitch In participants, I want to take a moment just to go through how Pitch In works and what we're going to expect during this webinar. Pitch In, as most of you know, is usually a live event, and the Bennelong Foundation, together with our staff advisory committee, which is known as the Bubbles Committee, hosts twice a year. And it's a really great event that we hold, and it's really a highlight of the year because it's an opportunity to bring the Bennelong Foundation, the staff of the businesses associated with the foundation, as well as friends, family, colleagues and our community together to help shape the funding direction of the foundation. During our live events, we grant out $50,000 on the night, and then we record the presentations, upload them on the internet, and our UK community members watch the presentations at a later date, and then usually vote to allocate an additional $10,000 between the presenting organisations. But because we have everyone all here together, we will be distributing the full $60,000 at the end of the event, which is a great outcome for our participants pitching tonight. We have 3 absolutely incredible organisations presenting that have worked really hard over the past month and through some quite extraordinary conditions around, with the current COVID restrictions that are happening, and they're here to pitch to you a project that needs our support. So I just want to thank them in advance for their efforts and time they've put into putting these presentations together. No easy feat, considering what it's like to work and live in Melbourne and New South Wales at the moment. At our last Pitch In, we presented all the pitches via video, but this time we have given our presenters the opportunity to present their pitch in a format that best suited them. So we're going to have a bit of a mix of videos and live presentations. And I think with the videos, they don't come across so well on Zoom, so we're hoping that they have a good quality tonight for you all. At the end of the presentation, there'll be each presentation, there'll be an opportunity for a live Q&A. So if you would like to ask a question to the presenters, you can do so by either clicking, at the bottom of your toolbar, there should be a hand up button. You can click on that and I'll be able to see that you want to ask a question. Don't put your hand up in real life because I can't see you out there. If you're selected, I'll be able to send you a notification and then you can unmute yourself to ask the question. If you're not comfortable with talking over the webinar, you can add a question to the Q&A or the chat stream. So after the three organisations have presented, this comes the exciting part. We need your help, to help allocate that $60,000 between the three organisations. And we'll launch a live poll. It'll pop up on your screen and you'll be able to use the poll to select which organisation you wish to donate your portion of the $60,000 grant to. So we're only going to give you 1 minute to vote. It's not going to be an easy decision. As I said earlier, we have three fantastic organisations presenting tonight. I think it's going to be a really tough decision for everyone. And unfortunately, because it's on a poll, we won't be able to split the vote like I know some of you do. We've got, I can see 60 attendees. So that means that each of you participating tonight will be allocating roughly about $1,000 to each organisation. So a significant contribution from each of you, which I'm sure will be utilised really well. And once the poll closes, we'll tally the votes. I've got Peter Aquilina helping me representing the Bubbles Committee, and he'll join us to announce the results. And I also want to thank Pete, who's sitting in the background for our webinar today, helping with the tech. So a big thank you to Pete for giving his time to help get Pitch In up and running. Our three presenting organisations were selected by our staff advisory committee known as the Bubbles. So I'd like to acknowledge all their support and help in selecting the participants for you all this evening or morning, sorry. We have 12 Bubbles committee members in Australia, and what's even more exciting is that we've got 8 new members that have joined us representing our UK businesses. So this is the first pitch in that we've had our UK Bubbles committee help us select the pitches tonight. So thank you to all 20 of you who have contributed to putting together the event tonight. Now, I know I probably say this at every pitch in, and it's probably true every time, but I think the Bubbles Committee have done, actually it is true every time, have done an exceptional job this round in selecting the projects. And for me, getting to know the organisations over this past month and helping them get ready, I've been just so excited to run pitch in, and I'm glad we're finally here and you'll all get to hear the great work that these three organisations are doing. What's extra special about the three organisations that have been selected for Pitch In today is that the projects and the presenters have been driven by and are delivered by these incredibly inspiring group of people who have each one of them had lived experience of the challenges and overcome them that they're seeking to address. So this is incredibly meaningful on 2 levels. First, because they are probably best placed to understand and address the needs of the community they're seeking to support. And secondly, they've each chosen to dedicate their time, either through work or as a volunteer, to create better outcomes and change the future for others. So momentarily you'll hear from them all, but thank you to all 3 of you in advance for the work that you do in the community. They'll all be speaking truly from the heart, and I think as a group we're really fortunate to experience this. When you have the opportunity to meet people such as our presenters today, it really does give you hope for the future. So enough of me, let's get on to our presentations. And I'm going to introduce our first speaker to you all, April. So April Long is a proud Aboriginal woman from the Central Coast and mid-North Coast of New South Wales, Darkinjung and Gambungid country, and is the National Operations Manager at Shine for Kids. April graduated from her Law and Arts degree at the University of New South Wales in 2012. She, in this same year, was awarded the inaugural Attorney General's Law Student of the Year in recognition of her excellent grades and involvement in legal reform. April has presented to the United Nations Committee on the Rights of the Child and previously edited the Indigenous Law Bulletin. She was named one of Australia's top 100 women of influence for her commitment to social change and Indigenous youth leadership. April has lived experience of parental incarceration and currently personally supports family members who are incarcerated. April's work is grounded in collaboration, partnerships, and working with communities as co-producers of solutions, not consumers. So April is here today joining us to pitch for support for the RISE program, which is delivered by Shine for Kids. Over to you, April. I'll get you unmute. Thank you.
Thank you, Sandra, for that lovely welcome, and of course for the Bubble Committee for this opportunity to do my very first pitch in and share our work with you at Shine for Kids. So I'd like to also start by acknowledging the traditional lands that I'm on, the Awabakal people, and pay my respects to elders both past and present. I'd also like to acknowledge that Aboriginal children are overrepresented in the criminal justice system. So at the moment, 30% of all of the children that we currently support are Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander children. And Aboriginal women are actually the fastest growing prison population in Australia. And the majority of those women are mothers. I share a similar story to 77,000 children in our country right now. And this is the same story for over 80 young people in Junee and Wagga. My father was incarcerated when I was a child and was charged with a violent crime against my mum and myself. I was just 6 weeks old. So children of prisoners are more at risk than any other children in our country right now. You can see on this next slide, I'm just having some issues. I'm not sure if everyone can see my screen at the moment. I might push on and hope that it comes back, but the diagram I wanted to show you was the impact that incarceration actually has on children. So children who have a parent in prison have an adverse childhood experience. Every time a parent is sentenced, children begin serving time. You are suddenly wrapped in feelings of shame and worthlessness. You live with guilt, hurt, and worry. You suffer emotional withdrawal, social isolation, and you're judged by the community around you and those at large. As a society, when a child suffers any other significant parental loss, like the death of a parent or the divorce, we wrap support around them. We encourage them to talk about it. Well, this is not the case for children of prisoners. There's nobody that has a wake or brings you a casserole. You're told not to talk about it, and you carry that stigma with you. The evidence also shows us that having a parent in prison affects your education. So you're more likely to drop out of school. You're 4 to 6 times more likely to actually end up in prison yourself. And you're 40% more likely to actually drop out of school. Shine for Kids is the only organisation supporting children of prisoners. And that's what we have the opportunity to really change tonight. So what's our solution? That sounds sobering, all of those statistics. With your investment of 20K, we can support 10 students to not just survive a difficult time, but to really thrive. And with 30K, we can actually support 20 students and 50 teachers. You might be wondering, why are we working with teachers? Well, even with your support tonight, Rise and Shine cannot be in every school and every classroom, but teachers are. Rise trains teachers through educational workshops to understand the unique issue of parental incarceration. Because in Australia, teachers actually don't receive any training as part of their formal teaching degree. And most schools have no policies for children of prisoners. Teachers are simply unaware of how best to support children with a parent in prison, and no one is filling that gap. With your vote, Rise and Shine will fill that gap in Wagga and Junee. I want to share with you a quote from Cody. He's a wonderful young person on our program in Western Sydney. And he says, I think that people who have parents in prison should be treated fairly, because it's not fair that people get bullied. just because their parents are in prison. As an organisation, we agree with Cody. And with your vote, children like Cody down in Wagga will no longer be invisible. We'll know who they are, we'll know what school they attend, and we'll develop trusting relationships with their carers and their teachers. So it's great to get feedback on our programs, and we measure all of our outcomes. And one of the outcomes I'm most proud of is that 91% of principals say that students are more motivated and confident in the classroom. But I know this program works because of my own lived experience. Education has enabled me to be the best version of myself. We can break the cycle of intergenerational offending. Children don't have to follow in their parents' footsteps, but we have to give them the tools. We have to support them to stay engaged in their education. It's important in all of this that we remember that children of prisoners are just children at risk. They're not just disadvantaged children that need our help. They're children of promise who deserve the right to an education. Every child like me should have the right to an education in our country. A child's opportunity shouldn't be imprisoned with their parent. Your vote and investment in Shine tonight is the start of a partnership. So together we can invest in what works and unlock children's futures so that all children rise and shine. Thank you.
Thank you so much for that presentation. I know we've only given our presenters 5 minutes to present, so it was short and sharp, but this program provides mentoring and support for young children who do have that incarcerated parent so that they can have the best school experience that they can and hopefully break the cycle that often happens when you have an incarcerated parent. Is that right, April? That's likely that unfortunately children often follow in their footsteps unless there's some early intervention?
Yeah, unfortunately I couldn't share my screen with you that shows the actual research, but 3 times more likely to have a mental illness and 4 to 6 times more likely to end up in prison. And a lot of the families we're working with at the moment, when we work with the parents, they've had that lived experience. They were a child visiting their parent in that very prison themselves. So that's the intergenerational cycle that we really want to break. And we know education is the way to do that. When I look at my family and some of the paths that they've gone down, it's education that really gave me those tools. So that's why we're so passionate about it. And that's what the Rise and Shine program really does, is says to that young people that you can be anything that you want to be, and their mentors support them to do that.
And they're and it's primary school students, isn't it? So that's the early intervention to set them on the right path for their high school and to get them engaged, keep them engaged with school from a young age. Is that right? Yeah,
it's working in the primary school. So majority of the kids that we do work with are in kindergarten, year 1, year 2, but also that transition. So we will support the transition into high school because we know that's also a risk period as well. So our mentors will work with them in the classroom or also in the playground, depending on what their needs are.
So yeah, that's great that they're having individual bespoke needs, because each child will, I imagine, have different challenges. We've got one question. I can't see whose name it is, but I'm just going to send you a little note to say that to unmute yourself if you wanted to ask a question.
Yes, hello, it's Liz Greengrass here from the UK. A couple of questions. You mentioned about training teachers. Can you tell us how the RISE program works in addition to that on a practical level? And then my second question is, can you also explain why you focus on primary school children and not secondary school children?
Yeah, absolutely. I might talk to the teacher training first. So that's accredited teacher training. So we've worked with the University of Western Sydney, and it's 2 days of intensive training where we actually use the voices of children of prisoners as case studies, and we create individual learning plans around, well, how would you support that young person if they're in your classroom? We also give them really practical things like books that talk about having a parent in prison, just to reduce that stigma and shame that a lot of children feel because they're told not to talk about it. You know, it took me to be 30 years of age to have the courage to actually talk about my dad's incarceration, because you're generally told not to talk about it. So we unpack that stigma with the teachers. And in terms of how the program actually works, we recruit mentors. They also do 2 days worth of training, and we do an assessment with the teacher as well as the young person and the carer to really get a holistic picture of, well, what does this child need help with? They might be really good at maths, but they're having issues making friends in the classroom. Their social emotional issues need to be supported. And then we match them up with a mentor that can help them with those needs. So that's practically how it works. And why we focused on primary school is because the majority of children, those 77,000 children that I mentioned, are actually in early childhood or primary school. So about the age of 13 is when we see a big drop-off in children visiting parents. And there's lots of reasons in criminology around that, why that is. Some of it is that parents kind of age out of their offending. There certainly are older children with a parent in prison, but the vast majority are in that primary school age. So we want to get the greatest impact and focus there.
Thank you, April. Just one quick question, because we need to move on to the next presentation. We've got Jeff Phillips has said in the Q&A, great presentation, April. How have you adopted your program delivery due to COVID, and how have you managed to do that?
Yeah, look, I think there's not too much worse in our country right now than having a parent in prison. Since the 17th of March, children with a parent in prison haven't been able to visit any correctional centre in Australia. So that's been a huge challenge. What we immediately were notified by our school partners is that kids weren't homeschooling, because these children generally weren't engaging in education prior to our RISE program. So our innovative staff created RISE at home. And so just like tonight with technical issues and Zooming, we did our sessions online. We did digital cooking workshops where we dropped ingredients off at the house and virtually all connected. We did everything we could to keep these kids connected, because our fear was that they wouldn't return to education and would, you know, stay disengaged. So that's how we've really adapted our RISE at Home program. And we also did a loan scheme because, you know, digital poverty, a lot of our families didn't have devices. So we needed to get the tech out to them as well. So as you can imagine, it's been a big logistical operation, but lots of innovation for our team. So, yeah.
Thank you, April. It's been quite amazing actually to see all the innovation that's come across all sectors, but particularly because of our work in the social sector as well. So well done on being able to pivot and adapt the program. And thank you so much for your presentation, April, and also for sharing your story and being so open and you know, sharing your work with our community. I really appreciate it. Thank you, April.
Yeah, thanks for the opportunity.
Thank you. So up next we have Ali Ahmed, and Ali is a qualified counsellor with a BA from the Australian College of Applied Psychology. Ali has a breadth of experience within the public sector. His previous experience has been fixated on helping disadvantaged youth across some of Melbourne's most marginalised communities. And I believe he's also running for council, but he didn't put that in his bio, but I've added that in. So good on you for doing that, Ali. And he is joining us today to pitch for support for Youth Activating Youth's Emergency Outreach Program. So over to you, Ali.
Thank you, Sandra. My name is Ali Ahmed, and I hope you're all well and keeping safe in these very unusual times. I'd like to speak a bit about my work with Youth Activating Youth. Youth Activating Youth is a non-profit that supports young people. It is an organization that is by young people, for young people. We have a very strong track record in engaging and supporting some of the most vulnerable young people in the state. We have a very, very strong and solid governance as an organization. We have a very long-term partnership with across businesses, government and community as well. One of the main motivators that prompted me to get involved along with my co-founder to start this organization was I come from a background that is, I came here as a refugee into Australia. I grew up in a very low socioeconomic area, and we as an organization have always been serviced in the local areas we come from by satellite organizations that would come in and address some of the concerns the communities had and pack up and leave when the initiative or the funding ran out. We had an idea that tried to flip the model on its head and said, let's build the capacity of the local communities and build their capacity to solve their own problems and find solutions to their own problems, and have a very rudimentary, basic grassroots approach that's community centered, essentially by community for community. And we found that to be a longer lasting approach as well, and it's a lot more sustainable. I'll share a video with you guys that has been featured on a national television in Australia, that is, and you can view more of this on our socials as well. Thank you, Peter.
For months now, Ahmed Hassan has been run off his feet. The 24-year-old has become the go-to guy for more than 100 Melbourne families struggling to survive the pandemic.
It's really dire out there. Some families are contemplating whether to pay rent or to feed their kids. Some families don't have proper housing and they're struggling. 7 kids in a 2-bedroom.
6 years ago, when he was just 18, Ahmed co-founded Youth Activating Youth to help vulnerable young people into jobs and study. When the pandemic hit, a lot of hard-won opportunities were taken away.
Some of the young people that we work with have been some of the first people to be knocked off a job.
Ahmed has become a passionate and articulate advocate for young people.
They've sacrificed their education, they've sacrificed their jobs, their mental health is in a very dire state. Young people are suffering.
For many, it didn't take long before the basics slipped out of reach, and so they turned to Ahmed and his team for help.
You're delivering food, you're delivering essential items, you're helping people with their bills. We've had to not only support the young people, but when the young person says, our family needs help, so now we've had to start supporting families.
Incredibly, Ahmed's only stopped work once in 6 months, when he was taken to hospital with coronavirus.
Thanks, Peter. So since September 2020, we've been providing emergency food relief to vulnerable families across Melbourne. Each week, we're spending about $2,500 towards crisis relief. We have on our books at the moment 30 registered families that are receiving food packages, and all are single parents, and all are single mothers as well. In total, we're supporting 135 individuals, and we have done that in the last 2 weeks, and we continue to do that on a fortnightly basis as well. This has come about as a result of people who've lost their jobs as a result of COVID. They're desperate to make ends meet, and there are cases of homelessness as well within this cohort of people we're servicing. There are 11 families that have reported that their physical disabilities within the family. 6 families reported experiencing mental health issues. We are experiencing a massive demand in the services we're offering. We have a backlog of families we are yet to service and we would like to service. So this is one of the reasons why we are talking to you guys to source more funding, to get more support, and we are approaching lots of different groups to see if we can help these cohorts we're servicing. I'm sure many of you here might be parents, and I can't imagine having to choose either whether to have shelter for my children or to give them food. I couldn't bear to explain to any of my children why they have to go without dinner tonight. We we would like to, we hope that no children go unfed tonight. We've got three options that we would like to propose to you. We've got 15,000 that we believe will help 16 families for a month and a half. 20,000 will allow us to help 16 families for 2 months. 25,000 will allow us to help 16 families for 3 months. So I think I wanted to leave it there and let you guys decide on that. Thank you for hearing from myself, and I'll pass it over to Sandra.
Yeah, thank you so much, Ali. We first heard about Youth Activating Youth and the great work that you're doing with the community. It's very much aligned with the type of work that we like to support with the foundation, grassroots community, supporting their local community, and particularly around supporting young people into education and employment. But COVID's really thrown the spanner into the works for you, and you've had to pivot a lot of what you're doing just to address the immediate needs. Is that what you're experiencing at the moment in your organisation?
Absolutely. Thanks, Sandra. Alongside this initiative we're delivering, we've got about 5 other programs that we're running, and we're running online as a result of COVID. So this is a need, an organic need that's come out of the young people and families we're working with. They've noticed that many of them are refugees or asylum seekers, or don't have access to government supports, and they've reached out to us and said, we are in dire need, can you guys do something for us? And we've organically grown in that direction at the moment just to fill this need. So
I think that's a reflection on your standing in the community, that you're the place that they've gone to for help because they know your reputation and the work that you do. So it's sort of reflective of their valuable position, because you're only a 2-year-old organisation, is that right?
Absolutely. We've been running for about 4 years now, and we're still infants in the non-profit sector, given that it takes a long time to get things going. So we've come a long way since we have started, and we are punching well above our weight at the moment in terms of trying to flip this model of having grassroots organisations or community support find solutions to their own problems.
And just, I guess, expanding on this emergency relief program, that this is really the top priority for you in regards of funding and for your organisation at the moment. But what's unique about these families that they can't go to other services? So why do they need your help in particular? I know we talked about the special cultural needs of the group and of the people that are requesting food, and these basic needs as well. Is there something particular about this group that you guys are best placed to support rather than the other food rescue and food support agencies?
Absolutely. We've worked within these communities for quite some time, so that there's that rapport, there's that relationship we have within the community and the reach we have within those communities as well. So it's a natural extension of the programs we're offering to the young people from those communities, and that we are addressing this crisis need within the family as well at the moment.
And I think we talked about that the food that these families eat aren't readily available through other food distribution channels. Is that right too?
Absolutely. So we're sourcing the food we are supplying to these families through specialty stores. Some have requirements, dietary requirements that may not be available in a regular supermarket, and to catering to that through our programs team. It makes it logistically difficult, but it's a rewarding work to be doing at the moment.
Yeah, and I think it's just about getting these families through these next few months so that they have the support to actually feed their children and not have to make choices between rent and food until the economy, hopefully soon in Australia, starts to pick up again and more jobs become available. I might just hand out to the participants to see if we've got any questions.
I think I see a question, Sandra.
I think that was from the last one. If anyone's got a question, you can put your hand up. I've got one from Howard, but I'm not sure if that's from the last presentation. Howard, is that Was that from the last presentation?
That was from the last presentation. But,
okay. All right, thanks. Okay, no worries. We've got a question from Stuart. How many people do you have working in your organisation?
We have 10 staff working at Youth Activating Youth.
Yeah, so it's grown quite a lot in the last 4 years.
It has.
Yeah.
Yep.
And how many people did you say you had on the waiting list again?
We have 20 that are not in the program, so that we would like to induct into the program, and this funding would make it easier for us as well.
Yeah. Okay, so I don't know that we've got any other questions that have come up. All right, well, thank you so much, Ali, for joining us. And I believe Ali and I are friends on LinkedIn now, so I saw that it's actually his birthday today. So thank you so much, Ali, for choosing to spend your birthday with us in the Bennelong Foundation community, for sharing your story and for sharing the work that you guys are doing, and that you've had to, you know, create this sixth stream of your work to really respond to a community need. I think we didn't show it in the video, but your co-founder, he's worked every day for the last 6 months helping get food out to people. That's right, and you probably have too, I imagine.
Absolutely, it's a great team effort.
Yeah. Oh, thank you so much for the work you're doing. Thanks, Ali.
Thanks for having me. Take care, guys.
So our next presenter that I'm going to call up to present to everyone is Nick from Youth Thrive. And Nick is going to be sharing a video with you all. Nick is actually a participant of many of the Youth Thrive Victoria's programs, and he's a volunteer. He's the active volunteer who's actually developed the program that they're pitching for tonight, Branch Out, and which is a mentoring concept. And Nick's a university student, and he's actually presenting on behalf of Youth Thrive Victoria because of the organisation's belief in empowering young people by providing them with opportunities and connections. So we have actually a volunteer presenting. Hi, Nick.
Hi, Sandra.
Hi, Nick. I'll hand over to you to share your video.
Perfect. Well, I'll just share it right away then. Hopefully the technology all works for me.
We just need the sound, I think, Nick.
Hi, my name's Nick, and I'm the coordinator of Youth Thrive Victoria Branch Out Buddies mentoring program. In this video, I'm going to explain how the program came about and how you can help us scale the program up and have an enormous impact for regional young people. The idea behind Branch Out mentoring came about because I was deeply frustrated by the inequalities in education that I saw. I went to school here at Brow College and I had a great education. But of the students that were in my cohort, only 7 went to university the following year. And when I went to university and met students at Monash who had gone to school in more metropolitan areas, I learned that they had so many more advantages. They had incredible mentors who were able to guide them along the path to entering university and succeeding in university. They knew people through their schools or their networks. They had shared notes and were able to breeze through the assignments. So to address educational inequality and to help students like myself get a better understanding of what it's like to study at university in Cape, we created the Branch Out mentoring program. And after further research, we found this problem was widespread. Across regional Victoria and regional Australia, young people like myself didn't have mentors who helped them build aspirations, think about their futures. They didn't have people who they could look to help build their career upon. They couldn't be what they couldn't see. So we decided to try and change that. So we decided to establish a mentoring program to develop aspiration, confidence, and opportunity awareness in regional young people to allow them to pursue academic opportunities that they otherwise wouldn't have been unable to pursue due to informational barriers. We recognise that whilst information isn't everything, it's something that we can provide free, and also something that we can provide in a way which helps connect these people who have left regional areas back with their regional communities. Our mentoring program is unique and exciting because it doesn't focus on a particular kind of student. It focuses on all BC and Bentel students from regional areas using mentors with lived experience of regional high school who've gone on to study either at university or TAFE in a different city or town. And what happens is these mentors provide online mentoring sessions to Year 11 and 12 students, and they address a number of topics such as scholarships, accommodation, what it's like applying to university, how to do it, and what it's like to actually be studying at university in TAFE. And it informs them, empowers them, lets them decide how they're going to use their academic potential to pursue their career objectives. Without this program, I don't think I would be going to uni at TAFE. I'll probably be still working with my dad, still unsure what I want to do.
It's made me more confident to understand and see people at uni and TAFE who've gone through the same things as myself.
The Brainshare mentoring helped a lot of the time. I finally met new people. I thought I could never do this. It's just amazing how much it's helped me get a scholarship and go to uni.
Every all the time, every day, just get better understanding of what to do. When Nick came and sat wisdom, talked wisdom, listened. Also, that stopped being an important part of the wisdom. Because Nick's done it, the kids are looking at the scholarships on his and thinking, you know what, he did it, maybe I can too. And it's that sort of breaking.
We've lost the sound, Nick.
How will money be spent? Well, it'll be spent on paying for travel in rural Victoria and part-time staff to coordinate our program. Our volunteers will travel to regional hubs, staying overnight, and they'll set up initial face-to-face meetings to establish authentic mentoring relationships for continuing with online mentoring. And as we scale up from one school to a statewide coverage, we will need the part-time person to coordinate our schools, manage administration, train volunteers, update the website, maintain contacts, and get feedback from young rural people at their schools.
This program works. Have someone who's from the school come back to the school or talk to the kids or now in the school, it works. Imagine how possible it will be if you can duplicate this across the state where people can go back to the schools that nurture them and help create what they want about and feel like they can do something that's a self-perpetuating program that can only do.
So this program, kind of changed my life. I mean, I think it did, but if you can fund the program and have kids' lives change like mine, kids who are not as good at, not as well off, or especially country kids, and then they can go to university and become confident, hopefully I will become to be. I mean, that's just the best thing, isn't it? So, if you'd like to help regional communities thrive and to help young regional people fulfill their full potential and build confidence, aspiration, and opportunity awareness, please, we would absolutely be delighted to receive your support.
Thanks for that video, Nick. I think you're studying law, aren't you?
I am, yeah, very similar. Doing arts law.
Arts law. So look, I think if you decide not to be a lawyer, I think you've potentially got a career in TV presenting, I think. Thank you so much for joining us today and for sharing your work. I think what I loved about this project is that it's really being driven by a gap that you saw through your experience being supported by Youth Thrive, who help young people in regional Victoria to transition into university and future careers. And you saw that gap and you were really driven and inspired to help other people. And I think we hear that a lot. Working in philanthropy, we hear that a lot, that you can't beat what you can't see. And when there's limited opportunities around, this is a really wonderful opportunity to really show young people what the potential is there for them. I think when we first spoke, we talked about how there's a bit of a deficit as well with the career counsellors at school. There's sort of 3 jobs that they know about. And so the kids just don't have that exposure. And, this is a really wonderful opportunity to broaden their horizons. And the idea is that they come back and support their communities, right, and help their communities thrive. So we know that living in regional parts of Australia have been really challenging with droughts and fires and floods. all sorts of things happening over the last few years. So it's really important to get some great industry and skills back. And we see the same thing actually over in the UK as well, in some of the areas that we're working with as well. So giving those young people that opportunity. I've got a question from Karina, unless you wanted to add another comment.
No, that's exactly it. I think there's so many problems that young regional people face, and this is just one of those ways we can help solve them.
Yeah, and I just want to add as well that I think that one of the other things that we talked about when we first met was that a lot of kids have felt really disengaged with school because of the opportunities for young people. You know, we know that youth unemployment is going to be a big challenge for our society, and so young people have sort of felt very disenchanted with applying to go to university because they sort of feel like, what's the point of doing that? So, and that's been a bit of a result of COVID and then the remote schooling. So this is really, again, important to help lift their spirits and re-engage them with the aspiration that they need. So I've got a couple of questions. So we've got one from Karina in the Q&A stream, and she says, what an inspiring man. Well, I agree with that. Congratulations. Do you operate in Warrnambool only or other parts of regional Victoria?
Yeah, great question. So at the moment, it's just me operating in Warrnambool with students, but we're currently using our alumni to try and expand the program in a few other schools across regional Victoria. But hopefully with some more funding, we can scale up a lot more as well. I can speak to that now if that's appropriate. What we're hoping to do is scale up our program and use our 400 alumni from Youth Thrive Victoria to all the mentors across regional Victoria. So there's a huge potential there to scale up, particularly because so much of it is digital, online mentoring, given that we're all scattered across the state in between country and city areas. So what we're hoping to do, or hoping to receive from you tonight, is $15,000 because that will establish a really strong regional base, which we can then go out from. As I said in the video, we can employ someone, we can have great coordination with schools, we can have training, we can pay for volunteers, travel and accommodation, and we've got that website as well. And then anything on top of that $15,000 is just a hugely disproportionate return on investment, because we already have the kind of systems and structures in place to scale up more and more. So there's a lot of benefit to be had there, not only for the mentees, but also for the mentors as well. I've really personally benefited from being able to go back to my own community and contribute. And I think this program has a lot of capacity to strengthen regional communities through doing that too. So I think if I could kind of just summarize it all, I think it's a very much a scalable program, but also it's a kind of self-sustaining program in that if we are able to scale up, we'll be able to go to more schools and then mentor students who can one day themselves become mentors. So it's kind of self-sustaining, a bit of a virtuous cycle there, which is really cool to see. And all we need your help for is to kick it into orbit and to let it work.
Yeah, fantastic. And I think, you know, it's really the voice of the young people that's going to appeal to young people too. Like, it's sort of, you know, they can see themselves not that far off into the future. I've got a question from Phil Honeywood. I'm just going to send you a message to unmute if you want to ask your question, Phil.
Yeah, hi, Sandra. Nick, the former Education Minister in Victoria, I know Browell College quite well. I've been there 2 or 3 times. And I know that they've always prided themselves on vocational skills training. And they've had a great industry engagement program throughout the Warrnambool area, where they've placed Browell College students who are focused on a more of a tradie sort of technical career with local businesses. So I understand your focus on university entry, but would you agree that Browell College would not necessarily be the college of choice in the Warrnambool area if you're hoping to have a university program post-secondary? Whereas if you are interested in having a technical, more vocational career, you might go to Browell College.
Yeah, great question. Thanks, Phil. It's always nice to hear someone who has great knowledge of the local area. So there's a couple of things to say there. The first is that we're not really pushing any particular tertiary path, whether that's university or TAFE. In fact, we have alumni, many of whom are undertaking TAFE currently or have taken TAFE courses and are then into trade careers. So we're looking to also allow people to follow those paths and to help them on those journeys too. On the topic of Brow College as well, really it's pretty much a standard school by Warrnambool standards. I mean, there's no real differentiator there in terms of academic performance. All of them have their challenges, as do country schools across regional Victoria. So I think there's still a lot of help that can be provided, particularly for people who have just left and have that experience of the challenges. So that's how I think we can go about that.
Thank you.
Thanks, Bill.
Great. Just give one more moment to open up for any other questions that you might have. All right, well then we might move on. Thank you, Nick. Thank you so much again for sharing your story and for the ideating this idea and kudos to Youth Thrive Vic as well for giving you the platform to develop the program and deliver it. So thank you for sharing your work with us, Nick.
Thank you so much, Sandra, and thanks to everyone for jumping on board.
All right, the exciting part now, guys, this is where we need your help to decide how we're going to distribute this $60,000. We've had 3 really inspiring projects, all very different, all very worthy of support. So whilst it might be a hard decision, just know whatever decision you make will be a good one. We've had Shine for Kids with their Rise Education program, providing that mentoring support for young children who have an incarcerated parent to engage with school and have the confidence to break that, break the trend of the situation they're in and give them the childhood that they deserve without the stigma and have the confidence to achieve what they can. We have Youth Activating Youth who have really established themselves as such a meaningful part of the community the community that they're supporting, and as a result have had a huge demand for just some very desperate families needing their support just to be able to put food on the table for them. Very specialised food, it's unique, and Youth Activating Youth are really the only group of people that can help these families. And then finally we have so Youth Thrive, and we have their mentoring program, which we've just you know, we have the opportunity to really kickstart something that will be spread right across Victoria and really help young people see their potential and motivate them to be what they can be. So 3 really fantastic and meaningful programs that we've presented to you today. And I'm only going to give you a minute to vote. So we might launch that poll now for you. So I'm going to only give you a minute to vote. You should all be able to see that now coming up onto the screen. So we've got about half of the votes in. Well, you're all very quick today. Thank you. There's a few more votes to come in. Thank you for everyone who's made those quick decisions. I think we're almost there. Just calling those last few votes to come in. All right, we might end that polling now. Thank you everyone for voting. While we are tallying the votes, it's my absolute pleasure to invite back to join me Paula from our community pantry, who is going to share with us some of the outcomes since May when we saw her. So they were very fortunate to receive a $27,000 grant from Pitch In, and so we are very honoured to have her back joining us and to share the work. So hi Paula again, so nice to see you. And yeah, and so yeah, please share with us how you used the funds that you raised back in May.
You say May, it feels like it's been like years. how much work we've done since May. Just wanted to say it's always an honour to share this space, and with such dynamic, impactful people and heart-driven work. I'm touched to be here. So our work, I set up a project called our Community Pantry. We are essentially a food rescue project. So start of the year, we were hit with bushfires very bad in our community. So, you know, we went into survival mode as we do and support our community. And as bad as that was, I think that was all just a preparation for COVID and what has hit all of us. What we found, our ability to help and support more families was limited by one factor, and that was the capacity to collect and store food. And we actually found that we actually had to knock back food. And that's heartbreaking when you come from a place where, you know what food does to a family, to children not having to see mum and dad struggle to put food on the table. We were honoured to be selected in a pitch-in and get alone to be able to have the success that we did from that program. It completely has transformed how we've done what we do and how we do it. So the first numbers, if I can share with you, we were asked to put together the number of family meals and the number of family hampers that we've been able to distribute in that one financial year. And I mean, I actually had to do these figures 3 times because I was like, no, can't be true. So we have distributed 12,387 family meals and 10,796 family hampers. So that's just, wow. That drives me because that's only a fraction of what goes to landfill. So, we've got huge goals. What we've been able to do since our pitching presentation, amazing. We've been able to put down a deposit on 2 refrigerated trucks. So our problem is we rent 1 truck, but when 1 truck's going out picking up food, it's very hard to then distribute that food when it's, full with food. So we'll be getting 2 trucks that we're collecting in December. We've actually worked towards developing an app, and we'll have that up online soon so our families can, quickly, easily purchase food. We're breaking that stigma of people being able to use a food support service. Just today, we actually signed off on purchasing a shipping container, a 40-foot shipping container freezer unit, which was something that, wow, that was a dream. That was like one of those down the line, big pipeline, visions. What that means for us is we're now supporting over 4,000 families. So since we last spoke, I think our numbers have increased by 800 families in, what's that, 4 months, 5 months?
5 months, yeah.
We're in a position to actually get assistance with putting in a DA, and we're actually moving to a bigger, more suited, more effective venue for us. So we've gone from a shop front, which was only able to service our local community. We completely changed our model, and COVID sort of was an instigator in that, but we've totally changed our model that we're now doing 5 outreach sites across a 2-hour span of where we are. So we've started 2 additional sites in a suburb called Oran Park and Mount Annan, and now these are sites that are on the direct line to the new Sydney airline, the new airport. So, most people would assume, that there's $1 million properties that, and land there. But what we see is that we see average families so stressed by high mortgages being able to afford that lifestyle. So to know that we're putting food in their, in their pantries and in their fridges, and every session that we go out to do an outreach, it's the best part of what we do. I have someone will come and say, this is the reason I've kept my mortgage payment this week. This has kept the second car on the road. I actually had one family come and said to me that just the last long weekend, they're actually able to go away on a family holiday. She said, we just never did that. She said, the savings we make here at Pantry has allowed our family to spend time together on a holiday. What else? I'm trying to think what else we've done. We are also working now with some of our local, it's almost like we've become a bit of a go-to for the work that we do. So now we have St. Vincent de Paul and other agencies actually coming to us saying, we can't do what you do. Can we purchase hampers for our members through you? Can we put in a Christmas hamper? So, last year, I remember our Christmas hamper was about 100. Now we've already got a list of 450 hampers we'll be working on for Christmas. So that freezer, which will hopefully arrive in 24 hours, we'll receive it within 24 hours. And I think within 28 hours, we'll have it full of food that we're saving. So it's been sad that, with COVID, we've seen so much food go to landfill because obviously, the hospitality industry has been hit hard. But to know that we're saving that and rediverting it to families in particular who's doing it tough, that doesn't stop to put a tear in your eye and warm your heart, because I know I'm doing the work that I'm here to do.
Well, thank you so much, Paula. Amazing work that you're doing. I mean, it's equally astonishing how much food waste there is, but also how many families really need it. And so looks like, sounds like you're a very busy lady, Paula, and we're so glad we could be a part of helping you expand that you had, so you could actually service all the demand. And it sounds like you're really feeling you'll be back up to capacity again soon, and unfortunately, but great that you'll be able to do that work.
I've often said, as just a flyaway comment, there is no reason something like this shouldn't be Australia-wide, and like it should be Australia-wide. We should not have food going to landfill, not when so much goes into producing the food and there's so many families doing it tough. But yeah, I think because of your support, it's launched us into a place where my goal was to have a little shop. Now the goal is, let's take this Australia-wide, because I know the impact it makes to families. Moreover, the vision is that for me, that no child in Australia should be watching their mum and dad struggle or stress about money to put food on the table. It's just wrong. And I had a gentleman come in and actually say to me, you're doing what Bob Hawke said. He was going to, make sure that no Australian child lived in poverty. This is my way of doing that. So thank you to you guys for allowing me to do that. A good shout out to all the participants tonight on the panel. I'm as I said, I'm in awe and so honoured to share this space. The world is a beautiful place when you see the stories and the hearts of people here. So thank you.
Thank you, Paula. And I think, watch this space. You seem like a woman who can achieve such things. So we'll be seeing more of you, no doubt. Thank you so much for joining us and for all the great work that you do for the community.
Thank you, Sandra. I'm honoured. Thank you. See you guys.
All right. I think I'd just like to invite back all our presenters. I believe we should have the results all tallied now. So I'll invite all our participants and the wonderful Pete Aquilina, who has been helping me in the background, doing all the tech work. And I believe he's even dressed up for you all. So where is he? He's hiding now. Oh, there you are. Thanks, Pete.
Hello, everyone. Thank you, Sandra. And thank you to all the participants here tonight. I've got the substantial role in fulfilling the very substantial shoes of Jeff Phillips in presenting the allocations tonight. I'd just like to, as I said, I'd like to flag that all the participants, albeit technical difficulties aside, we could really tell the passion that each of you young individuals had, and the commitment to your respective causes. And of course, those causes are very worthy of our support at Bennelong. I think I'll just flag, I think Sandra said earlier on that this represents a short list of a much larger group of causes which were narrowed down by the Bubbles Committee. So to get this far is actually quite an achievement in itself. And I'll just read out the allocations. I'm just doing a final tally in case Jeff gets me in trouble for over budgeting. So we have for Youth Activating Youth, they've won a commitment of $10,200. You Thrive have won a commitment of $16,800. And Shine for Kids have won the largest commitment this evening of $33,000. Thank you very much, everyone. And would you like to make any final comments?
I'd just like to say thank you all to our participants, and again, the time and commitment that goes into putting something like this together. It's a time commitment, it's an emotional commitment, and it's a commitment of resources. So yeah, well done everyone for all the work that you've done in getting to here today. So I don't know if any of you had a final comment that you wanted to say just before we end our webinar and pitch in.
Thank you so much. That'll have an enormous impact. I'm really, really excited and so grateful for all the support. It's amazing. I'm stoked. Thank you.
Yeah, I just echo Nick's comments, and yeah, congratulations to the other presenters. It's always great to hear about other people's work, and hopefully we can find some ways to collaborate. And but yeah, thanks for your support. It's going to mean so much to the kids that we support down in Wagga and Junee. So really appreciate the support.
Absolutely. I'd like to echo your sentiments as well, Nick and April. I'm sure you'll do some fantastic work with the funding you've gotten, and look forward to seeing it in the future as well. Thank you for having me.
Thank you. Thank you all, and thank you to everyone in our Bennelong Foundation community for contributing to the results this morning or evening, and hopefully we get to see you all in person shortly. Thank you.